All right, just a quick one here. Actually, sort of skipped the last two mornings with a few other bits and pieces to do, but just was a pretty hectic move overnight. Probably everybody's seen the bulk of it, of course, and gold absolutely bailed down. Aussie took a pretty heavy hit, and not sort of super bad, but obviously sort of a bit of a push down. I'll get into it in a lower part in 2 seconds. It's sort of DXY push back up, but I just want to sort of go through a couple of these little levels that I'm looking at. And just sort of see if we can see if these moves are going to be sustained and what we're looking for to sort of negate those moves from last night. So I'll start with Aussie at the moment because as you can see here, it's sort of found a little bit of support on this sort of little medium term rising support through here. So you can see it's respected this a number of times. Took a few attempts to sort of coming down here. This is also, if I get rid of the bigger one of these, which is, so this is the run. That's not the run from the lows. Get rid of that one there. This one's actually the run from the lows. So I don't know what I was reading there. Let's bring that one back. Yep, so this was, disregard that bit that says run from the lows there. This is the last move up here. So we can see base from the bottom here, up to the top, pull back here, and 61%, which seems to come up time and time again as these great areas for Aussie to find some sort of launch pad back from. So that's 61% bouncing. And as you can see, it's pushing up the top here. This is on a 4 hour, so it obviously has a bit of a view with it. What I'm looking for at the moment is to get through back under these little support areas here, because you can see these were, it's set up a couple of times. It had some pretty decent little bounces off here. So I want to see that, it isn't just a matter of, okay, buyers, now they're going to be sellers. We want to get back above there. We want to see that sort of go through. A couple of things, if it can go through, and if it chops straight through, it's not too far off. We're, what are we, from current point to there, only sort of 10 points off or so. We're in the zone for that now. If we can chop back through that sort of 60 zone and get back up to retesting this area over here where we saw those sellers really unable to sort of let the buyers pass last night and yesterday in the session, there's a chance that we could be seeing something of a flush out. Because you know what I mean, like I'll get to the other charts in a moment as well, but this was supported, came through here, nice bounce, has coming up here, so I'll get down onto a lower time frame. And you can see that it had this little sort of falling resistance coming through here. That didn't come through super fast, as you can see, a couple of tests and that, but it's slowly been grinding, and now it's pushing back up towards this top over here. So for me, this is an area, this sort of 65.55, oh sorry, 66.55. That's the area that I want to see be beaten. From that, it doesn't mean that it's this was a flush out and that's all it is, but there's a high chance that you see some sellers here, some people that were trying to hold these zones through here. You can see even on the lower time frame here now, how much they tried to sort of respect it here. They became sellers on the way down here as well. The higher the time frame, the more relevance of it, but you can see that as we drill down onto this 15-minute chart, that it obviously shows it and they've respected that zone quite a number of times. So I'd expect a little bit of a pushback from around this area here, as you can see lines up with your horizontals. If it can push back through there, well, 66.80 is pretty much, again, the line to beat. We did have a little bit of pop-off here yesterday, and this was around the time that the RBNZ came out with their sort of rate decision. They decided to hold with a little bit of a hawkish tone to it all as well. And by proxy, Aussie always gets a little bit of a runoff if we get some sort of New Zealand strength, at least against the sort of other pairs as well. But obviously, bang, as you can see, didn't hold it and just melted down all the way through. Pretty sort of staggered drop through here, and then this last little dip down here was through FOMC minutes overnight, where the talk with that was your sort of typical Fed talk of people sort of coming up saying, hikes are probably even still a consideration, which, let's be honest, they're not. I would be very reluctant unless, things are absolutely sort of kicking along. I don't think that they're, and the sort of inflation comes down and they get really good sort of strong economic data. That's the kind of conditions where you could potentially see that to sort of, again, it's used to slow down the economy. And if the economy is not slow, well, why would you be hiking? Sorry, if it's not ripping along, why would you be hiking? So yeah, we'll have to wait and see. But anyway, with the Aussie, these are the levels that I'm paying attention to up over here and then getting back up over here. There is a chance that, of course, with this as well, it sort of just comes up here. We see the sellers like these other times were buyers, these times are sellers. We can see them and it could push back down over here as well. That's obviously still a possibility. But as I said, if we can get sort of back up through here, we're looking at a potential sort of, maybe if we jump onto the daily, we'll show it, a little bit of a flush out of this area. And I'll sort of go as to sort of how, oh, it doesn't look so pretty on the daily there, does it? But I'll go into sort of how I think this is actually, just because, again, I know DXY isn't part of Aussie dollar. Aussie dollar isn't part of DXY, sorry. But we are seeing a fairly interesting reaction on DXY here at the moment. So it is in this sort of wedge that sort of seems to be coming through here. We have sort of rejected from the top, pushing down to the bottom side. You got the RSI that can support a little bit more of a sell-off down here. Just getting outside this wedge won't be enough, though. I'd like to see it sort of really down below 450. And this little support area, you could even drag this probably back and make it a bit of a chunkier. And normally I like to keep the areas fairly thin, but there's a couple of sort of support areas through here because it was quite choppy. But yeah, underneath 450, I think we could be sort of seeing that as a confirmation of this leg back down with DXY. I mean, obviously it hasn't done it yet. It's still in this sort of little grind up, but we did see it react pretty much on point of where we thought it was going to. We've seen that this has been sort of support previously. If we get onto a different time frame as well, you could probably see that there was a little bit of a bounce around this area here as well. And this is really around that zone that it was that CPI was this last candle here, which really caused that sort of meltdown. And it's just grinded its way back up to the top, clipped out the top side of it, and now starting to move down. This little 4-hour candle that we're seeing at the side here, this was a nice one actually. So I was watching this as this popped out because it was the actual French PMI of all things that sort of came out, and the US dollar decided to spike up on that one there. We saw a euro sell off, and then sort of 15 minutes later we had, bear with me, the German PMI, and that just did a complete 180 on itself. So if we get onto a lower time frame, we'll probably show it a bit better. This little move through here. So they were 15 minutes apart, and this was the French PMI, and then German PMI. And these kind of things, particularly on the 4-hour, when you see, or any sort of time frame, but when you see this particular setup and it's already drifting down, has a push up to the top, and then sort of pushes back down. That's that sort of high heel reversal that we sort of look at. So if you look at this, if you inverse this really quickly, you can see how this sort of plays out here. I'll find this one here. Yep. And so the idea with this is very crudely drawn. That's your high heel shoe here. So there's the foot of it, and then you've got this little rocket sort of thing there, and then breaking out the top of that candle. That's the confirmation, and you can see it goes bang, and it's continued through and shot out to the top there. So get that drawing off there. Go back to the normal way of how we're looking at it. So yeah, we do have the RSI sort of ready to sort of push it down if it does continue to go down here. We're coming into this previous wick. This was from around that sort of US data, the Fed minutes and that last night, which obviously shot it back up to the top. So first things first, cross over there because you got this rising support comes in at this level. Horizontal of this wick comes in at this level. So I think if you can beat this level here, then we could be seeing a little bit of a push down, potentially like this. Even if it does break, look, it does have the possibility, of course, just to rip back into it. This is DXY, and it does love to sort of like, when you think it's dead, it just springs back into life or keeps on sort of grinding higher. But, again, these are the things. If you wait for these confirmations, you've got this, you're stacking the cards in your favor a little bit more. And as I said, look, we've got Aussie sort of springing back up. Gold took a pretty heavy beating in that, but it's off the lows. Silver into a little range from the bottom there, and that's slowly pushing out the top there. Had a little bit of a wedge as well. So you're getting these other sort of assets that are trying to recover at the same time that DXY is sort of selling down a little bit. Confirmation will be obviously if DXY is going to be the driver. If it pushes through and sort of hammers to the downside, then we're going to see a bit of a recovery of gold. We're going to see Silver recover a little bit more, Aussie recover a little bit more, these kind of things. Okay, and finally then I guess, yeah, I'll just have a quick look at how gold is traveling here. So yeah, as we can see, sort of gold, I've got two charts. Trading view actually seems to be quite slow, I've noticed at the moment. So anyway, so gold, very scrappy looking chart here. Obviously, we'll get a couple of these things out of here just to clear it up. We're seeing of, where's the start here, of this breakout move through here. We have sort of dragged that up to the top. That's giving us the 61%. Actually, I wouldn't really sort of call that move though. This would be coming down here. Yeah, so from the lows of the high of this last sort of move coming up through here, see it's sort of coming back down into where we had our little buy zone. It's just clipped into that. I did actually have two buy zones, so the top one up here got absolutely chopped through. In the 90s, I was like, yep, I was waiting this. If you watch the weekend video, I was like, yep, patiently waiting in the 90s. This was the plan, get in there to sort of ride it up a bit higher, but of course it just ran up sort of on Monday and been super choppy in that sort of through the week as well. Let's grab this out of here. So we have sort of see it sort of tap into this bottom, into our second sort of buy area here. We have had quite a nice little reaction coming off here. A lot of work to do. If I chuck this other chart on, we can see that it's poking its head out a little bit. Oh no, it's Aussie. And that's the same chart. Beautiful. And if we get down onto a lower time frame here, we have sort of seen a little bit of this negative divergence off the lows down here, and as you can see, another tap down here, and it's slowly sort of moved out to the top side here. So this is actually a little bit of a wedge as well that sort of formed through here. So the base size of the wedge is how we've got our sort of measured move price target just for this little breakout point here. Doesn't mean it's going here, doesn't mean it's going here straight, and doesn't mean if it does get here, it's going to stop. But that's just a wedge through there, and that's the kind of sort of price target that you're kind of looking for with it. It has sort of come out. You do want to see these things come out with some volume and sort of really power up. When they dribble out, there's a chance, obviously, we come back down and could even potentially see some more sort of like, back tests of the top side of these parts over here. But for the time being, as I said, as long as DXY does sort of continue to push down, we're going to see some of that money sort of flow back into the metals. And certainly, look, negative divergence for the bottom here, as we can see, pushing through here. This one really is the kind of bottom indicator that we like to see. And as you can see, it's pushed up a little bit from the lows. It's still got, I mean, it's only really up where we are at the moment. Sort of $13 move off the lows. So, it's a start. But going back just quickly over what happened last night, you can see that had this little support area. It was quite a strong area that we had marked out up here. Charts are very slow to update. Something's going on with TradingView at the moment. But we had this little support area and respected a number of times. It had this little triangle coming through here. See, typically these sort of falling triangles, or sorry, descending triangles, would sort of be favoring a break to the downside. But you got to take into account that if it came up into it, so it had leading direction moving up into it. Plus, also, we had a number of these kind of similar setups. I don't know what's going on with the TradingView over the last couple of weeks as it's sort of been breaking up. So, this has been a typical sort of coiling kind of area. And of course, had a lot of stops underneath here. And as you can see, as it sort of broke down through here, it just melted down. This is on a 30-minute time frame. And you can just see once it went, this was like a $25 candle or something, from 12 down to 85. So it was, nearly $30 30-minute candle. A little bit of a bounce, dribble, and sort of just been coming down the bottom here. So, I mean, apart from that sort of one move here, which is clearly stops, which you can imagine because, so much of the market's long, we're right at all-time highs, it's consolidating sideways, you've got a nice clear-cut level where people would be chucking their stops. They clipped them a couple of times, put it back, clipped them a couple of times, put it back, and they build up all that energy, and then once they actually let it go, bang, it flies through there. So look, not to sort of say that gold is over and done with. You do have to look at the idea that we did have a little bit of this sort of channels and that sort of coming through here. It's just chopped through absolutely everything. So it could be a little bit of a sort of stop hunt as it sort of kept dribbling down the bottom here. We have sort of broken this initial channel. So that's a start. You got to sort of at least sort of stop being sold off, and then sort of see where it goes to there. But the fact that it's only dribbling out doesn't fill me with a great deal of confidence that we're going to be sort of seeing a big, strong V-shaped recovery. But again, above 85, I would say that that's okay. It's back in the game. That'll almost give you a measured move from this little wedge part. And then you potentially could come up to the top side here. You would like to see at least probably a retest of 2000 to 2004, which is around this sort of area down the bottom here. I think that'd be a justifiable retest level. And particularly if it gets up here, I think a lot of people that may have sort of held through this part here will use that as an excuse to bail out of their position. So there will be a trade that's available through this section here. Won't necessarily get back up to the top over here, but there will be a trade that's through here. I think sort of 2004, 2007, that kind of area where we had this sort of big base. I think that's going to be a little bit of a tough zone to get back on the top side of. But we'll have to wait and see what they do with DXY. All right, that's about it for me.